nice. Well then, yeah, welcome to our presentation of Mariët and me, Isabel. Within our project, we studied the relationship between probiotics and the symptoms of autism spectrum disorder. And in this project, we propose the treatment effect of a specific probiotic to alleviate autism syndrome disorder symptoms. So I will quickly explain to you what ASD is. ASD is a neurodevelopmental disorder and is characterized by the person's diminishing ability to communicate and interact with other people. Core symptoms of ASD are restricted repetitive patterns of behaviors, interests, and activities. In addition to these core symptoms, abnormalities in sensory processing leading to an avoidance reaction to calm oneself down, for example, when one feels too many emotions, and gastrointestinal symptoms are characteristics of ASD. A study that compared the microbiome of persons with ASD to a healthy control group reported that ASD patients have a different and less diverse gut microbiome with decreased levels of several bacteria. So a large body of preclinical literature states that the gut has a bidirectional influence on the brain. This is also called the brain-gut axis, which you can see here in this picture. The gut system consists of a microbiome, and the gut microbiome consists of different bacteria. And the balance of these bacteria has many effects on both the well-being and disease of a person. Therefore, the gut microbiome plays an important role since it influences and has an effect on the functions of the central nervous system, the neuroendocrine, and the neuroimmune system. It is even argued that the brain-gut communication may cause several diseases, for example, autoimmune and central nervous system disorders. In the brain-gut axis, bacteria initiate signals that are transmitted from the gut to the central nervous system, which can be transmitted via blood circulation or the vagus nervus to the brain. In the picture, you can see the bidirectional relationship between the brain-gut axis and intestinal inflammation. For this example, it is associated with inflammatory bowel disease and the severity of anxiety states and depressive status. The brain-gut axis also involves different signaling pathways such as neurological, metabolic, hormonal, or immunological pathways. So scientists found out that differences in the microbiome of ASD people compared to healthy people and started to research the effect of the microbiome on ASD symptoms. Studies suggested that alterations in the microbiome promote symptoms of ASD through the microbial metabolites, immune regulation, and direct interaction with the brain. They state that probiotic treatment targeting the gut microbiome have beneficial effects to improve ASD symptoms. So overall, one of the options to alter the microbiome are probiotics. And probiotics are also described by the WHO as living microorganisms, which when administered in adequate amounts confer a health benefit on the host. Until now, only animal studies have been undertaken, but one of the probiotics that has an effect on ASD symptoms is the Lactobacillus reuteri. Therefore, we will focus on this probiotic. And researchers have reversed social deficits that are associated with ASD in mice by a bacterial-based therapy. And they were able to correct social behavior, for example, the sensory process, through the intake of L-reuteri. And in 2018, researchers from the Baylor College of Medicine have reversed social deficits that are associated with ASD in mice by a bacterial-based therapy. And they found out that no matter the origin of the disease, they were able to correct social behavior through the Lactobacillus reuteri. Therefore, this report will focus on how, and together with what other factors, the Lactobacillus reuteri can correct social behavior in people with ASD. And in an interview, one of the researchers stated this quote, which you can see, and I will quickly read out one sentence to you, the bold one. Which is, in this research, we determined that the vagus nerve and the oxytocin dopamine reward system were both necessary for the social behavior to be restored. And because of the word restored, we built a learning process model about which Mariët will tell you now more.
Yes, so as we explained, we decided to build a learning model, and therefore this model has different layers. In the base level, we first use the temporal castle model, of which you can find more in book 1, chapter 9. And this part is shown with pink knots. With the red knots, we propose the gut system knots, and herewith we propose the effect of the L-reuteri intake on the temporal castle model. For the base model of the temporal castle model, we also added the X16 state. This is a control state of the feeling state, and that's X3, the feeling state. So if this control state is able to suppress the feelings of X3, this person will not go to the avoidance loop. And the avoidance loop is from X6 to X12 to X15. And this means that if the feelings of X3 are getting too high and this person cannot control it, it will go to that avoidance loop. And this means that the person will go away from the situation, and therefore the feelings are going away again because they avoid it. And this is a typical response for people with ASD. So we suggest that the intake of L-reuteri will improve the connection between X16 and X3, so the control state and the feeling state, so that will work better. And this connection is influenced by X17. It's the W state in the first layer. We also added the red knots in the base level, and this is the gut system. So the food intake knot, the L-reuteri intake, and the gut system states. So we assume that this does not directly influence the temporal castle model, but indirect via the learning process. In the first layer, we added the X24 state. That's the carrying capacity value. And this value is affected by X21 in the base level. And this value stands for how healthy the gut system of the person is. And this gut system is healthy if the person eats a lot of fibers. So that's important for healthy intake, food intake. So the X24 is assigned as the parameter of X20. And that has the function with the carrying capacity. So this means that this knot can grow, has a limit to grow that's based on X24. So if the value of X24 is very low, X20 cannot grow a lot. It's just limited by the parameter of 24 value. So also in the second layer, we have the X18 and X19, these are the H state and the M state for the W state in the first layer. And these are both affected by X20 in the base level. And as I explained, this is the L-reuteri, how much the L-reuteri is able to grow in the gut system. So it describes the value of the L-reuteri in the gut system. Then we will show you the first simulation. So here in this picture, we can see that there is not enough learning effect to avoid the avoidance loop. We can see that because they are going up and down, all the lines. And this means that this person is feeling very strong and then goes into the avoidance loop, and therefore is the feeling completely gone because they avoid the situation. And for this simulation, we used an initial value of 0.3 for the food intake. So what I explained, that's the fiber, like how healthy your food is, and this value is too low to start the learning process because L-reuteri now has no chance to grow enough in the gut system because the food intake was not healthy enough. And therefore the L-reuteri cannot grow enough, and therefore the learning process is not starting. And we see the line of X16 below. It's going up and down with the feeling. So that's the control state value. So it is a little bit there, but not enough to avoid the avoidance loop and to really control the feeling. So the feelings are still going up and down. And if we would hire the L-reuteri intake, the probiotic, it will still show this result because we just don't have a healthy enough gut system to let the L-reuteri grow more than this. So we will show you a second simulation. Here we don't show all the lines because then it becomes a bit chaotic. But here we can see that there is a learning process. So first, as a reaction on the L-reuteri intake, we see the avoidance loops are going up and down. But after some time, the L-reuteri starts to show its effect, and therefore we see that the control state of the feeling, so that's the red line, is going up a little bit. And this, so this person will become able to suppress their feelings enough to not go into that avoidance loop anymore. So it stabilizes what Isabel shows now, together with the feeling, and that's the yellow line above. That's also stabilizing. With this simulation, we assigned a higher value for the food intake. So this person eats more fibers and has a healthier gut system of 0.9. And therefore, the L-reuteri intake that remained the same as the other simulation is able to grow more. So it can go all the way to 0.9, and therefore the learning process can really happen. So what we see is that the control state starts to stabilize, and therefore this feeling line of X3 also stabilizes. Yeah, so we can go to the next slide. So we also did a verification of the network model, and in this table you can see that we looked for the values at different at the same time point for different axes, and then we checked it with the aggregated impact, and then in the lowest column you can see that all the values, so all the differences are so small, they are way smaller than 0.01. So then it's argued that the model that we created generated the correct values. Yeah, so overall we propose with our model the learning effects of an L-reuteri probiotic on the ASD sensory processing. Are there any questions?